Hey everybody, it's Holly Burns. Good evening. How are you guys doing today? Well, we're going to get into part three today, and oh my gosh, do we have a lot of material to cover. So let's get into it. There's a couple of things I want to make really clear. I sat down with David's higher self and my spirit guides. I call them the elders. I've been working with them for 20 years. And I asked what happened on April 20th. And I was shocked to have David tell me that he had gotten a preposition from another alien, a woman alien that came to him and offered him a life on another planet for a while. And that there's things he could work on there, that they would love to have him work on with them there, and that he could be safe there from being killed. He took the offer, and you can get into more details of that if you want to go back and listen to part 1 and 2. The deal is he left the earth. He was not involved personally in the quote unquote suicide event. That was not him at all. He was safely gone off the planet in a ship, by then gone. And they took him to another planet in another dimension, and his destiny is to come back to Earth after being gone for a few years, and he'll actually spend around 20 to 25 years on the other planet of their timeline, and then he's going to jump back in to Earth in a shorter timeline than that, not a full 20 years is what I'm getting. But he might bring family members back to prove the timeline differences. He might bring children back that are older than the timeline than he's been gone on Earth. So it will be the biggest disclosure story of all time. That's the full circle of what he's doing. He is in his body. He has not left his body. He's not floating around in the astral somewhere, because people keep forgetting he's coming back to Earth. He can't be dead. Like, people are thinking, oh, Holly, you're just misunderstanding. We can go to spirit form whenever we want. Yeah. But can you come back, be the person you were in your incarnation? Probably not. Once you make that commitment, you probably can't do that. Well, he's coming back as David Wilcock, is what he told me. These are my interpretations of what I'm getting, and I have part 3 to update you with today. So let's get into the information that I got. And some of it blew my mind right out of the water. Let's go through it. I'm going to start with the reading first. So I asked David if he could start from the point where he was given a choice to leave or stay. The focus of part 3 is going to start. I forgot to tell you this. Let's back up. The focus of part 3 is, I wanted to start with the moment where he was given the choice to leave or stay, and what happened after that. That's a big part of my focus of this reading. I asked him if he could tell us what happened after that, and he interrupted me with something else. When I asked him that question, he interrupted and gave me 2 cards again right off the bat. The shapeshifter card and the alien woman card. I'll show you that. Having the visuals along with what I tell you is going to help you guys to get the information as clearly as I have it. If you don't see all the pictures, you might not get the same amount out of it as I did. Okay, so I'm going to do a lot of that tonight. And before I get into this, I want to thank everybody that has been so helpful, and we're really forming a network of minds. So this is really, really important work that we're doing together. Here's the 2 cards. Alien woman, that's the alien woman, and that's him. And then this is the Draco reptilians. I think this is just the funniest thing in the whole world. I just love how this works for the Draco reptilians. This and this is code for the reptilians. Okay? It kind of looks like reptilians, right? Okay, so it's code for that. And then it also can also just mean shapeshifters. I'm going to do some research on this woman. One of you guys really think that she was a Palladian woman and that he's on the Pleiades. I'm going to try to focus more on where he's at. We'll see if we can get anything really detailed, but I did get things about a water planet. He did give me stuff about water on the first reading, but then he also gave me stuff about beautiful flora and fauna as well on the same planet, like beautiful, gorgeous terrain. And then I put that together. Oh, okay. The Pleiades star system is known as, I guess they have a lot of water on their planets. We're going to get into that more as we go on. All right. So these are the first 2 cards that he gave me. He interrupted and gave me this. He's like, a woman came to see me talking about shapeshifters or, the Dracos could take him out. Bad guys could take him out. The people that are aligned with the Dracos could take him out. Basically, it was about that. But this card also comes up later in the reading as good aliens that are shape-shifting to look like David. And I happen to know that there's lots of people on the planet that do have that gift, that can do that. So he interrupted with that initially. Then I asked him, when did this happen? And he gave me a card that indicated the moon phases, which showed to me a match for what the moon was doing that night. So this is what I got for the night, the description of the night. That the moon phase of that night is a little tiny crescent moon. And this is like a moon emerging to emerge again. Okay. And then this one has dots all around the perimeter like a skinny little crescent moon. So those were the two things he gave me for marking the night. The cards are very specific to the reader. So they're my personal downloads and my telepathic information that I'm getting from the person I'm asking. If you guys get some new layers, let me know. The next thing he explained was like he was being shown his future. And he said he was in another world. He was looking back on Earth. So he was gone safely away. Looking back on Earth, there was two children shown on his timeline. What I get from that is that at the meeting with the alien woman, she was telling him about his life. So she came, she says, remember, we're doing step by step here. So she came, she talked to him, told him what his life would be like, what he had to look forward to, what would happen. And he could see this. And then he gave me the hanging man card, which means behaving in a manner not consistent with society. So he had a choice to leave the planet and go to a different place. That would definitely be not consistent with society. Right? And then he said the difference between the two is important, meaning the difference between doing that or dying, actually committing suicide. The other difference is he had a choice to go do this other life versus stay here, and it's not being pulled out of his body. He's saying that there's a clear difference between what he's talking about and being dead. So he's saying, I'm not dead. I'm continuing my incarnation on another planet. They were saying, you will not be dead. You'll be continuing your incarnation on another planet. So it's like, you're still David. We're not killing you or taking you out of your body in any way. He also added some extra things. He said, I have a sense of peace and understanding that only people that have gone through a lot of trauma can have. Not suicidal. I have a feeling of peace and understanding from what I've gone through. And he said, he may flounder at times, but he knows who he is. Meaning he's not wonky. He's not crazy. He's not mentally ill. He's not out there out of touch with reality. And he said he's willing to sacrifice society's approval to be true to himself. In fact, he's leaving to go on another planet for a while, and also because his suicide will be believable by most. He's willing to sacrifice society's approval to go do these things. So that means he's staying here and he's taking the journey. He's making a choice to do something divergent to society. And he said, I'm doing all of my choices based on this vision I was given. That's pretty big. And then he said that he's choosing. Then I got a message from them that said, do not put more stock in what other people think than over what I believe to be right. It's a test for me to trust my judgment on what I'm getting and not be swayed by all the other people saying all the other things. David warns, be aware of rationalizing bizarre and inappropriate behavior. Some are out there putting false narratives and don't know what they're talking about. That's what I downloaded from the cards he was giving me. All right, this is the next card he gave me. Six of Cup card. He's giving me this many times, and it has a new meaning at the end, you'll find out. A whole new meaning that blew my mind. Children explore a colorful fantasy land. Friendly animals are their playmates. So he's saying, like, my children are here. These are his children. And they're playing with animals on the other planet that are like their friendly playmate, like different types of animals and they play in different ways than they do on Earth. He will want to tell everybody back here about this path, really inspiring him to want to come back to Earth and tell everybody about it. This card also means something from the past is now once again in your present. When he comes to Earth, he's bringing his future from the other planet into the past on Earth, because he's time traveling back where the children will be older than the amount of time he's been gone, which indicates time travel. You can't deny that. If you got kids that are 10 years old and you've been gone for 5 years, something's up. So that's what he was saying with this. That is a correlation of what I'm getting from him. That was really, really cool. And he's saying that plays a current role in shaping his actions now. That whole thing. The whole idea of what he's going to do there really plays a part in his actions now. These are all the things he was being shown at night. This is still back at nighttime now. He hasn't done anything yet, but he's shown all these things, and he's going to be feeling these things and feeling nostalgic and all these things. It was like he was showing a big blip of like his whole life to come. Then I started asking him, what did they tell you about the death? Then he gave me a card about somebody shape-shifting and posing as him. And I'll show you that as I go through the reading. And I got really specific cards about that, and I did take pictures of them for you guys. So I've got that to show you in a minute. They told him it was calculated down to the instant. And I found the police report to the second. It had hour, minute, and seconds on the timeline of what happened the day of the 911 call. And I got signs from that. Later on in the reading, we're going to go over the exact times and what they meant. So the first time was 10:44. His first phone call was at 10:44. He said they were telling him that everything was calculated down to the instant, and that they said that if he wanted to do this, he could be the one, and they would pull him out of the situation. They explained that person with the gun to their head would be taken out of this dimension, and a stand-in body would be put in place for the bullet to hit. And then at that point, that cadaver body would fall to the ground and be the dead body. So they have like a body that would be taken out. The person that is the stand-in and puts the gun up to their head would not be dying as a result. They said he could do it if he wanted to and be himself and get all the way up to that, and that they would take him out before, and his whole body would be removed from this dimension in that moment, and a stand-in body would be the one to take the bullet and fall. And he's like, no, thank you. I do not feel comfortable doing that. No. You guys can take care of that. So he said, absolutely not do I want to do that. So they said, okay. They knew he was going to say that. They just gave him the choice. And then the aliens came in and started talking to me. And they said they do this all the time, this whole dimension thing. They had someone stand in for David. David was already gone, safely onto a ship at the very least. I think he was in space looking down on Earth at that time, or on his way, because he keeps giving me a card that he's like way high in space looking down on the situation, far enough away that he would be in a safe place from the people that were trying to take him out. So another person is playing the part of David, and they've shape-shifted into look like David and sound like David. And this is a thing. In my other video, I stated it, but for those of you who didn't see the other video, there is a clandestine organization called TLS, the Light System. They have people in the organization that are born with the ability to shapeshift. There's a man named Ray, that's his fake name, that works and helps out TLS on missions. When he goes on a mission, someone else shapeshifts into him, comes and does his life, stands in for him, does his entire life the whole time he's gone. His wife and family do not know that he has anything to do with TLS at all. It's completely secret. And she can't even tell that it's not her husband that's with her at the time. That's how good shapeshifters can be. So this is the thing. Very common in other parts of the galaxy, apparently. Somebody shapeshifted into David. Somebody makes the call. The words said in the 911 call, totally code. I have to leave. Or he said, I think he said, I have to leave. Or he said, I can't stay here. One of the two. Those were the things he said. Code words to us to let us know he was leaving Earth. And he couldn't stay here because it wasn't safe for him to stay here. So the shapeshifter person shapeshifts, makes the calls, does the thing. The shot gets fired. It is a real bullet. I asked. It had to be a real bullet so it can make a real indentation in the one that they put in to stand in to catch the bullet, because otherwise when he went to the coroner's office it would be too obvious. The instant the trigger is pulled, a dimension shift happened. The person shapeshifted left this dimension right at the millisecond that the trigger's pulled. And then, so they left. Boom, they're gone. At that instant, a stand-in body comes in, takes the bullet. So in that time it takes from the bullet to leave the chamber, go through the air, go into the other person's head, this person left and another body stood in. Well, a soulless meat shell stood in, took the bullet, fell to the ground, took the blood splattering, did all the dealio. That also correlates with what the elders said. The elders said there's something weird caught on camera. Camera A. They meant on the body camera of the cops. Something weird was caught. They were indicating, hello, watch out. There was a switcheroo. But it happens in an instant. They also showed me the movie by Angel Network that came out last year called The Shift. They showed me how in that movie, the guy is completely all the time, just bam, in an instant. He's in a whole different dimension, a whole different place, this fast. They can do that stuff. So that's what I'm getting as of today. That's how they want me to think of it. Not as him being extracted, him staying as a physical incarnated being, left the scene, someone else took care of it. The aliens just said that along with me right now. Someone else took care of it. Oh, someone else took care of it. Done. They're just saying right now, they're like, people, someone else took care of it, okay? Get it in your heads. It's not that big of a deal to us. Humans make a really big deal out of stuff like that. They said they picked David because he was willing to push the boundaries and take it to the next level. And his studies were beginning to manifest. His dreams were coming true. And they said, you are ready to present your work to the outside world. But the other part was they asked him to come to this release program on the other planet and all this because you're willing to take it to the next level. We want your work to get out there. We want you to get to live long enough to get your work out. The aliens are explaining now, they're saying the reason why he left was because Earth wasn't ready for him yet. Earth wasn't ready for his work yet. So he's safely doing his work on another planet. So when he comes back, the Earth will be ready. So he won't get taken out. Okay, so now we're getting into the time and the death of the call. They were messages. So 1044. For me, 10 is you know. 10 means claircognizance. It means knowing something without knowing how you know it. 1044 to me said angelic realm messages. We know. So he's being looked after. He's being watched after. The 44 is angel numbers to me. And then he said, I need to leave. It was like the all-knowing realm was telling us David left and went to another dimension. At 11:04 a.m., he stated, I'm sorry to put you through this. Once again, another 4. And the 11 is urgency. Urgency, 0 time left, 4. I'm sorry I have to put you through this. That was the shapeshifter person giving us messages from David. David wanted to say, I'm sorry I had to put you guys through this. Wondering where I am, missing me, not knowing what really happened, trying to believe if I really committed suicide or not. So that was from him to us. Then at 11:05 and 27 seconds, they witnessed a man shooting himself. I can barely say that. The 27 means 11 is urgency, 05 is change, and no time left. And 27 means 2027. Really important timeline because 2026, 27 is the year of full disclosure. 26 is the soft disclosure year. 2027 is the hard disclosure year. What? The gun went off at 11:05:27. 2025 is the year that David was so obsessed with, and I was too. He's like, this is a really big year. This is the year of the disclosure happening, or this is it. These are all the people that have it, that know that they chime in with 2025. So 2025 to 2027. That is one of the biggest 3 years that's going to be on the planet. We have so much happening. Hello! He's going to be back. He's working on that. That is his life work. Get it, people. Figure it out. Stuff doesn't happen like this just by chance. There is no such thing as chance in this universe. That's amazing. At 11:06, they gathered numerous additional personnel to respond and assist. That's us, his followers, responding and being gathered. Respondents were gathered up. People were gathered up to respond and assist. That's the web of us. And I got to tell you, I have a huge personal story about the time of 11:06. I told you guys that I had a pre-life soul contract with David to help him get this message across. 11:06 is my numbers. Like, I'm born on 106. 11:06 is an extremely important time of day where I had an extremely important meeting with an extremely important soul having to do with disclosure. And I can tell you that later in life, but I can't tell you that yet. But I'm just telling you, 11:06 is one of the most important minutes in my entire life. 11:06 is the moment where they started gathering up respondents to come to the scene and assist. What? I was like, oh my God. I'm born on the 6th too. Like one of the hugest experiences of my life happened at 11:06. I'm like, okay, wow. So maybe some of that's going to jump through you guys too. I can't wait to get the number stuff back from you guys. I'm sure it's going to have many, many layers, and you guys are going to be going, oh my God, this is what this means. Oh, this is what it means in this chart. And by the way, thank you for the astrologers that have been giving me really cool astrology information for part 4. I think we should go more into some of the astrology stuff. I've got a commentator that's been contacting me with some chart stuff, and it's really cool stuff she's talking about. So we're going to get more into that, I think, for part 4. But wow, that's just too much for me right there. That's too much. Okay, we'll see what you guys get. Okay, I was sleeping 2 mornings ago, and I clearly heard David's voice saying, keeping the bread in the bread box. I'm like, what? He was giving me a blip of when he was talking to the alien, he knew like this time around, part 3 was going to be really focused on the actual event. He's telling me, he told the aliens, he's like, I'm keeping the bread in the bread box. When they said, do you want to do it? Do you want to stand in for yourself? Do you want to be yourself? He's like, I'm keeping the bread in the bread box, meaning I'm keeping my soul in my body. So you guys can go do that. I ain't touching that. I could hear his voice talking. It was just the funniest. I'm like, that is so how David would talk. And so they were explaining that David has a timeline that keeps going right now. David's incarnation timeline has not ended. Even if they took him out of his body and put him in a different body on the other planet, even if they extracted him and did that, they could put him in another body if they want to, and his incarnation would keep going, and he would still be David, the soul that's David, until his incarnation ends. But David chose to keep the bread in the bread box. He stayed in his body and left physically went with them, however they traveled to the other planet in the other dimension. So what they did then for the people that did the stand-in, I'm like, okay, well, if you're shooting yourself with a bullet, how do you do that? So that's when they spent 24 hours. I delved into this for 24 hours straight, going into deep depths of how they did the dimension shifting, and I really got that clear. I felt I'm really clear with this by the end of the reading. They said, first of all, they made this jump out to me, shapeshifter. So like, okay, they used a shapeshifter. So I know that much. David's person was a shapeshifter. Got it. They made that very clear. Okay, how does a shapeshifter leave a physical body behind for the coroner to have? That's the part I was confused on. So I said, how do you do that? Do you pull him out? Did you pull the shapeshifter out? And right before the bullet hit the shapeshifter's body, but then the shapeshifter would lose the body they were shapeshifted into. I mean, how does that work? So I got a little confused on some of that stuff. And so that's when they explained that this is really cool. But they said that somebody created an exact duplicate of David's body using his DNA. And so then they did it with dimension shifting. So they were in another dimension, waiting to jump down into this dimension, just like Sasquatches do. The Sasquatch people can jump down out of another dimension and leave one footprint and jump back up again and go back up into another dimension. They can come in and out of this dimension whenever they want to. Just like me with my virtual background here. I'm virtual backgrounding in, right? And then sometimes I just disappear. That's what Sasquatches can do. And that's exactly like what I'm doing today with my virtual background. That's kind of like what happened is that in that instant, that's why they said, caught something weird on the cams. And then they tell me later on in the reading here, they said, if you unfocus your eyes and you watch, you could see it happen. It's so quick, but it's so quick. People are going to miss it. But if you know what to look for and you're looking for it, you might be able to even see it happening. That's what they did. As the shapeshifter left, boom, in an instant, the shapeshifter's completely gone from the scene. And then the stand-in body is there to take the bullet and fall to the ground. Makes sense? And the stand-in body came in. The instant that the shapeshifter body left, the stand-in body came in a fraction, fractal of time. And then, makes sense? Makes sense. So the shapeshifter didn't have to be DNA replicated of David. The shapeshifter can be just on the outside from a distance looking close enough to look like David, right? Because nobody went right up to him. That's why he shot the warning shot. That's why he had the gun to his head, so nobody would get right up to him. Also, I did get messages about the fact that, the 911 call was made and the cops came because that's as public as you can make it. Obviously, I went over that in the other part 1 or part 2 as well, but that was also said again, that's a reason why the shapeshifter did that, was to bring it out so publicly that there's absolutely no question that something happened to him. Okay. Yeah, they said they can drop a dead body out of nowhere in an instant. Well, at the same moment, the shapeshifter leaves this dimension. Pretty freaking cool. They said they can turn into an orb of light as well and take off. But they didn't say that's what happened. They said that he took off out of the dimension, pulled him out. This is really cool. Do you remember the live where he did, I think, 2 lives, part 1 and part 2, all about the hero's journey? And he talks about the movie scripts, how the hero was dead for 3 pages of the script, and then the hero rises again. That's how the movies work. I realized at that moment, oh my God, that was downloaded to him so heavily so that he would think of that theme for that video as a clue to us that that's what's going on. David is living out his own hero's journey right freaking now. And we're at the time right now where he seems like he's defeated. He seems like he's dead. He's gone. And then comes back and finishes with a big finish. Pretty cool. I couldn't believe that. Oh my God, that's the coolest thing ever. So then I asked him, can you confirm that you're on the hero's journey? For the first answer, I asked this again later in the reading in a different way, and I'll show you those cards too because they blow your mind. First card, the Knight of Pentacles. The alien woman was that Two of Cups card originally, where it was the blonde woman facing the brunette guy and they were face to face and she had blonde hair. And in this, he's showing me the woman alien as she is in another dimension. So he's showing me multiple dimensions. In another dimension, this is what she looks like. He was saying, I'm going to a different dimension. And this one is all these other dimensions are behind here. These are all other dimensions, and this is the dimension he's choosing now. He's talking about dimension traveling and also them bringing in others into this dimension to carry out the fake death. And then this is other souls here up in the non-physical realm waiting to pop down through the clouds. Like below the clouds would be like the dimension that they're going to, like say, you know, they're going to come down and be the stand-in, carrying out something where they're going to dimension shift. And they're waiting to pop into their other dimension when they're called. And so he was showing me like dimensionalities here with the top three. And the bottom one is David leaving. There he is walking out his front door of his house, out to the mountains. Here, this card has mountains in the background. And so it's like his view out of his house. He's walking out to go join the people on the ship. There's other meanings with this fox as well, too, for later on in the reading. This fox means outsmarting people. So he's heading out. And then this is him up in the ship, traveling up into space. And then this is the other world where the children are. The other dimension where his two kids are. This is the card for the other planet. Looks like he's on a hero's journey. And then this is him having children, he just said to me too. That does not look like a person that committed suicide's cards. That looks like someone who's on a hero's journey right now, taking off, doing something's cards. That was pretty cool. I also asked him if this was on this timeline, and he said he's staying on the current timeline, but just in another dimension. Some people think that he's in another dimension of Earth. Some people think he's in the Pleiades. Oh, we'll try to find out that as we go. He did give me the answer of the current timeline. So then I said to him, did you go to another planet or another version of Earth? And I said, please explain to me again exactly what journey you're on. He said again, here's me. I left. The seven of swords means shifty plan where he will outsmart people. And the magician means a man of science. So he's going to be able to be a man of science. David's talking about in the other world, he'll have more powers and he can do things with the elements and work with all these tools and work with energy. This is an energy helix. So he will feel like the magician on the other planet. This circle behind him stands for the other planet that he's on. And he can work with elements and energy. Then it also said, because there's dimension shifting happening, those wands stand for all the multiple dimensions, precisely calculated. And if you screw it up, it would screw up everything. That's why he said, I'm not doing it. You guys do it. Because it's very, very, very particularly orchestrated. They just said to use that word. Then the Three of Swords. This is amazing. The message of this card is heartache very dramatically and tragically expressed. Consider the image carefully. Meaning, consider really believing that was a suicide carefully. The ego is identifying entirely with the emotional distress, making it bigger than it should be. So people that are living in their ego mind, people that are more balanced to the ego than the higher self mind, are going to say, he committed suicide, and they're going to believe that. This is coming from the elders, my all-knowing guides, by the way. They gave me that definition. David laid down the cards, and the elders explained this meaning. The swords embedded in the heart indicate that a way of looking at the situation is faulty. Removing the focus from the emotion allows a glimpse of the bigger picture. It might be hard to end a relationship. It does not mean the end of your life. He said, it might be hard to end the relationship with me, David, that I left the planet, but it does not mean the end of my life. Be aware of people using that role of the tragically broken-hearted David. It is a sham excuse. The elders said it's a sham. And the elders, they know everything. Was there any time stoppage that occurred to accomplish this switcheroo? They kind of explained it like they didn't need to, but they can if they want to, but they didn't need to. A little bit of timeline jumping, but that's not how they did it, which isn't that important. We're totally obsessing over the how. It's not important. I want to be really clear on that. Two different energies, two different bodies. The shapeshifter took off off with his own shape-shifted body. Off he went. And he just said, yeah, I'd rather stay intact if I can. Well, yeah, I mean, who wants to blow themselves up and have to deal with going into a new body? No one's going to want to do that. He just said it's very taxing on the consciousness to have to go through that. So they said they avoid it whenever possible. Makes sense to me. Okay, was there two separate people or bodies, energies? The first one is two versions of Earth. Okay, so then the Seven of Swords in this one is the shapeshifter person. And I just think this is the best. When you look at his eyes, it looks just like David, but he's got these beady eyes and he is being shifty. And that's what the fox is for in this one. Four of Wands card means family DNA. They took his DNA and they created another person. So those were two separate things. And then this king here is the person, the version of David, the copy of David. So this person is the shapeshifter person with the Draco reptilian shapeshifting symbol. Shapeshifter and another grown person that looked like David. This is David saying goodbye to his cabin. This was kind of sad. This one made me sad. This is David looking around saying, well, I'm ready to leave. I can move on to where else I need to go next. Goes off alone to solidify his knowledge and then returns to the world to share it and help others. So this man found his way and hence has much to share with others. Yes, it actually says that in my tarot book under the Nine of Cups card. Are you kidding me? I just about died when I read that. Let's go over that one more time, shall we? So he's saying cheers to his cabin. He's also symbolic for holding up the warning shot. And then the events that happened afterward here. And then him saying the hermit goes off alone. So he's saying cheers to the cabin, goodbye to the cabin, as he goes off alone to solidify his knowledge, then returns to the world to share it and help others. Excuse me, I don't think you can clarify in tarot cards any clearer than that. What? That's just unbelievable. I can't make that up. So I asked them, is there anything else I need to understand about how you guys pulled this off, science-wise or otherwise? And they said the situation is both simple and complex. The Four of Cups card. He imagines something better and is being offered a new gift. David manifested this experience for himself, that he was thinking all his life, a lot of thoughts that manifested this experience for himself. He's being offered a new gift because he's open to something new, that they answered his pleadings for a better world, and he was offered much more gifts due to the fact that he already had plentiful gifts. At the expense of his current happiness, he is focusing on a concept that does not yet exist. So he's willing to sacrifice his current happiness in order to go and do this other thing. So that's one other thing they wanted us to know, that the aliens wanted us to know this. And then David said, I know the difference between conviction and fantasies. The fact that he understands that his actions might anger his enemies. It's helping to add to the collective good, so it's worth it to him. And that the alien woman helping him, a fierce and loving friend. So that's really cool. David was so excited about all of this that he wanted to tell everybody, but he had to keep it a secret. It was really tough on him to not be able to tell the world. Also, the aliens wanted to let me know David was offered this agreement, that he was told in exchange for doing this that his family would be protected. It says a deal was made. Then I asked him again. I asked, did you really use two bodies? Or did the one that shot the body jump out and leave that body there? And this is what I got for an answer. The first card, the Three of Pentacles card, very interesting card. A master craftsman, along with his forge, finds great pleasure in admiring his work. Well-crafted work. The hidden magic of creation of physical items. They crafted a body. The shapeshifter doesn't have to craft a body. The shapeshifter can shapeshift. So they crafted a body. There's my answer right there. And then they gave me the Four of Cups. So they had a stand-in body so that David can turn to the future and embrace the two cups waiting for him. Could be his two children. I'm just guessing on that. So he can live in the future, which means, remember, he's going to jump back in time. He's going to go there for a longer time. Then he's going to jump back in the timeline and be back here. That's all super cool. This next card blew my mind. This is the other David walking out of the deck. This is the shapeshifter guy. The shapeshifter is pretending to be David, so they're giving me clarity again on what happened. They're like, okay, we made a meat suit, And then here's the shapeshifter guy acting like he's David, pretending to be David. And here's saying he's a little stiff, as if this were a new experience and he wants to get everything right. Although careful, he is not nervous or anxious. He is prepared for this moment as much as possible and is filled with confidence. The shapeshifter walking out in front of everybody, pulling off the charade, walking out on David's deck as the shapeshifter guy. Pretty amazing. All right, then the Eight of Wands card. This is about the plan. To their conclusion, be aware of the dangers of interfering. It said the connections are intricate and you may not be able to see larger ramifications. So once again, that would be indication of two bodies switching places. Aware of dangers of, the page should not get in the middle. It's not a good idea for him to get in the middle of the gun and his head. He's a shapeshifter. The Three of Pentacles person is the one that took the hit. So, and this is again the Three of Swords card again with its very intellectual answer talking about that it's a sham. Removing the focus allows a glimpse of the bigger picture. A glimpse of the bigger picture. You know what that means. That if you blink, you miss it because it's going to be so fast because of dimension shift. And then the Queen of Swords again was the one that orchestrated it. That's her saying, all right, places, on your marks, go. So she was in charge of it. The alien woman that came to get David was the same alien woman that's in charge of orchestrating this particular exact event. She's like the director of the whole thing. And then the next card, that's the meat suit. So once again, we're getting two different cards here. I said, did you use two different bodies? Well, that clearly shows a meat suit right here. And we know how it happened right there. The next card is the shapeshifter. And I looked and I'm like, oh, that's interesting. Let's see how this ties in. So that says you're going to die. So what that one was is the shield that he's holding, he was shielded from the bullet. The shapeshifter was shielded from the goings on with the bullet. He wasn't the one taking the bullet. He was shielding himself from the bullet, making sure he did not get the bullet. So he's not the meat suit person. It's different. And then it said, not in the middle of the battle. So you know what that means. He wasn't in the middle. He didn't get caught getting the bullet. Do not let it paralyze you. He's not going to get hit with the actual gunshot because he's not the person in the meat suit. That's a lot of confirmations. And then I said, okay, if you were doing it the other way, if it wasn't multiple bodies doing dimension shifting and David himself was not still in his body off doing something else. And David was extracted. I said, let's go with the theory that David was extracted, like a lot of people are saying, that he was extracted out, taken out, and so he's no longer in his body because he's extracted out of his body. I said, what cards would you give me then? I do that a lot sometimes. When I want to get a contrasting question answered, I'll ask, what would you say if you weren't saying this? What would you say if you're telling me another thing? How would you word it then? They gave me, if they were telling me that he is in the afterlife and he had been extracted from his body, taken up to the afterlife world, not able to come back as David Wilcock in his body. Okay. So, traveled to another form of living or death. They started with the star card, which means everything here speaks of peace, calm, and hope. Unity of thought and spirit, joined with spirit. So they're saying he would be joined with his higher self spirit to explain that he is now joined with his spirit. And this card is about replenishment. And that's what you do in the afterlife as well. You go and get replenished. So they've never even given me that card once yet. And then they gave me the King of Swords card. That is one of the archangels. That's Michael. And then the King of Pentacles card is Lord Metatron. They're saying he'd be with those guys. Then the Hierophant card is his spirit guide. So he would be joined with these beings. This is a person that died. This is his dog that died. This is a woman that died, that was somebody that he loved very much, that died in his lifetime, that he'd be reunited with her. And this is the angel's wings. So he'd be up in the angelic realm. And then the family card, reuniting with family members, being part of the upper family, contented, total peace, total harmony, up there with these big dudes that he works with. And the angels. Oh, I forgot one. That High Priestess card, that beautiful woman that was floating, that also says floats with her toes barely skimming the water. Well, I had an out-of-body experience where I was floating along a pathway. And so that's code for you're in the astral dimension. You're in the other world or the afterlife. So he's floating around as a spirit. Then I asked, what is the outlook that David is coming back to Earth? The Knight of Pentacles card. Here's the shapeshifter from the last pull. Here's the meat suit from the last pull. So he's discussing, that day when my suicide was faked by the meat suit and the shapeshifter. And then I was led on a journey and a path. I didn't know where I was going, but I went on this journey and the aliens said, come with us on a journey. And then this is him coming back to Earth. It's like he's arriving back. He's like, this is David from the future coming back. And he's like, he looks like he's been through a lot, right? And then they likened, okay, they're kind of funny. They likened this card to, and the elders are the ones giving me these cards this time. They likened this to, like, you know that podcast, Holly, you were just listening to a couple days ago with the woman in the 1800s that was left on an island for 18 years? Oh my God, you guys, she was on an island for 18 years. That could be code for how many years he's going to spend on the other planet, 18 on the other planet. She was left on an island and they found her 18 years later and she survived by herself in the 1800s. True story. They're saying here, like, rescued by a ship, you know, he came back. They're kind of just symbolizing that. But basically it means I was gone and I'm back now. And it's the kind of back where people go, oh my God, you're still alive? Like that kind of back. And here's the death card, like, what? You didn't die? You're back from the dead. David's back from the freaking dead. And then it's like, oh my God, let's honor him. They're having a parade for him, you know, like David Wilcock. That's David up on the horses. And here's all the people like, yay, David, yay, David. Oh my God, we're honoring. We're so excited. Our knight in shining armor is back. And this is all the people that didn't believe. And they're going, what the? What? Really? And then this is the sun card, which means he was on another planet. I'm back from the other planet. Makes perfect sense to me. So that was my sit-down reading that I did with David, his higher self, and the aliens and the elders. So thank you so much for watching, everybody. Thank you for being here. I'm going to make all the signs and symbols that I got from David's higher self and the elders and the aliens that I put into my phone. Our next video, I'm going to do a part 2 to this video, and I'll release them almost back to back. Thank you so much for watching. If you need me for like a private reading, private session, please contact me. You can get hold of me through my website at hollyburnspsychic.com. Thank you so much for this journey with me, and I'll see you on the next one.